It's going to be our podcast, the Everybuddies Podcast. We hope to talk about just cool shit and interview interesting people and hopefully some researchers, historians, academics, maybe some artists, just people who've lived interesting lives or are doing interesting things. And maybe when we go places, we'll get to interview people there. But this is our first episode, and we're actually going to talk about our setup. It was not the easiest thing to do. I find that these how-to kind of videos, these how-to kind of episodes are super helpful and super popular. Check and make sure our VFA is actually running on this. It is. Okay. So our VFA is actually running. That's video follows audio. So eventually you should see the cameras switch over to me while I talk.
And then while I talk, it should eventually swap over to me. But in order to ensure this in the best possible way is we got one setup records just one instance of the cameras at a time, which is the video follows audio through a Stream Deck. But then we have a second setup that records all three cameras at the same time. And the video follows audio through the Stream Deck has not swapped to me, even though I've been talking for...
It just swapped.
Huh? Well...
Talk more.
Yeah, it took almost, 30 seconds there for it to swap?
Just the little crosstalk, it swapped off of you. So what we're using is an Osee Stream Deck, OSEE. I got that, actually, it's $300 on Amazon. I'll put links in the description on the website and on the YouTube channel. So if you're interested in getting it, you'll be able to get it. It has a decent video follows audio feature on it. There's another way to do it with the ATEM deck, and you can do that with the ATEM deck and an iPad. And then there's a piece of software that you can load up onto there too. Now, I haven't seen where anybody showed how they set up their Osee Stream Deck to do it. So I'll go ahead and do a video on that. And actually, I'll splice some of that imagery into this. But basically, through the menu, you have to go to the Osee website and update the firmware. You take your SIM card and you have to load that into the deck, power up the deck. It will automatically format the SIM card. Then you take that SIM card and you got to put it in your laptop or your desktop or whatever it is you use. You have to go to their website and download the firmware update, put it on the SD card, power down the deck, put the SD card into the slot, and then when you turn the deck back on, it will automatically update the firmware. It's not an instant process, but it will happen. On the deck, you have to go through the menu to turn on the video follows audio option. And what that video follows audio means is that when one person starts talking, the camera should switch to them. And then when there's crosstalk, it should shift to both. Now, I think the reason it's not switching on us right now is that we're both projecting our voices pretty well, and we're getting too much volume from both microphones. So it's counting it as crosstalk and showing the middle.
Yeah, so when I speak, his microphone will pick up a lot of my voice speaking, and vice versa, where his voice will pick up a lot on my microphone, which causes the video follows audio to go to our input 3, which is videos of both of us.
Right, which is what you're watching right now. The way to dial that in is actually by adjusting the volume on each of the microphones. Now, the way it works on this is you have an input on the deck for microphone 1 and microphone 2. And then you actually have 4 video inputs. We're only using 3 of them. Microphone 1 is tied to video 1, camera 1. Microphone 2 is tied to camera 2. There's nothing tied to camera 3. I decided to use clip-on microphones, and the reason I chose that is largely because I want to have a mobile setup. The other thing is we got wires going all over the place here, and having 2 more wires coming up to microphones by our faces just doesn't sound appealing to me. The other thing is with those microphones, you have to eat the microphone. As far as I can tell, there's really only two types of plug-in microphones like that. There's the broad, wide area microphones that they'll pick up everything that's being said in the room. And then there's microphones where you have to be right up on it talking to it in order to make it work. I just didn't want to be eating a microphone.
Yeah, and then picking up the entire room, the video follows audio would be moot. It would never work. With this, we have to tune it. But if we just had one or two microphones that picked up everything, it would never do the swap automatically. So the choice to go with clip-ons is nice because, yeah, it's not in my face and you can hear the audio is really good. The audio off of these things is very nice.
Yeah, we get great audio quality. I'm going to see if I can adjust it a little bit and get it to switch a little bit for us. So, look at that. There it goes. There it lost. Let me go ahead and make some adjustments here. All right. I'm wondering if we can just change the balance to high and if that'll be enough to get us there.
You could also make it so that we got to be a little bit louder to get it to swap. Oh, well, it works.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if it actually swaps back to me. For cameras, I got Nearstream VM20 cameras. They produce at 4K, 30 frames per second.
60 frames a second.
1080 at 60 frames a second.
Okay.
Now, they're wired cameras, but the reason I specifically chose a wired setup.
Then you were right, though. Then it is 4K 30.
Yeah, it's 4K 30. The reason I chose the wired setup is largely because of latency. Nearstream, as far as I can tell, makes some very good wireless cameras, and there are better ones. There are even better ones out there if you're willing to spend more. But the problem when you're dealing with wireless is you're always dealing with latency. The other thing is they can start dropping out. You have to set up kind of a virtual hotspot for them. You don't want them to wire up through whatever Wi-Fi you're at, whether it's your house's Wi-Fi or the libraries or wherever you're doing.
You need to make like a LAN?
Yeah, you basically are setting up basically have to set up one as a hotspot and then have the other two actually connect to it. So setting the AB priority higher worked a little bit, but let me see if I can adjust the thresholds on our microphones and see if that gets us a little bit better. Who knows? I might make it worse though. So the way I'm going to adjust the input on these, increase the sensitivity on these microphones. Your turn to talk, Jay. See if we can get it to switch to you.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to talk about was your choice of furniture here.
Wicker. Well, fake wicker.
Yeah, it's lightweight furniture so that we can move it around, find new backgrounds, new settings to do a podcast or video in, so that things are always kind of changing, things are always kind of new and interesting. And we can take it places that we otherwise couldn't take 100 and 200 pound chairs.
Oh, right. Yeah. Plus, the other thing is we're trying to sell this house so we can move. I don't want to carry a 50-pound couch out of here.
And then on top of that, it has to go up the stairs because we're located in the basement at the moment.
Right. The other thing is you want carpet. So we've got carpet squares down here on the floor. Carpet squares I chose because if anything spills on them, if anything gets damaged, all you do is pull out the square and replace it. You don't even got to glue them down or tape them down. You just replace it. And carpet is really, really good for absorbing sound. Soft furniture like this is also really good for absorbing sound. The ceiling, it's an older ceiling. I mean, this place was built in 1959, but the ceiling absorbs sound really well. All this cabinetry back here is kind of oddly shaped, so you don't get, it breaks up sound waves also, so you don't get like all this echo. all this furniture, these tables, everything we have in here absorbs sound. We want to avoid echo.
Yes. Yeah, and my suggestion was to put up some sound foam, but then we found after running a couple test videos that in post-processing, all of the background and the echo was not significant enough to end up in the final product. All of our video and audio processing was excellent. It all came out to end up just being our voices with really no adverse artifacts.
For lighting, we have just a couple of regular overhead light bulbs that are, just regular ceiling light fixtures. I got some newbie. I can't remember the name of the company, but I'll take a picture of the box and put it up, edit it in. Just a couple of panel lights that are easily adjustable. You can adjust the tone. It goes basically from bright white to amber.
Yeah, warm light.
From bright white to...
I think it's specifically 3300, 5600K.
Okay, yeah, 5600 Kelvin, whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, when they say that, what they're trying to do is correspond it to the light you get from the surface of a star.
Oh,
that's
okay.
at that temperature. Yeah,
oh, okay.
So cooler stars are more red.
Yeah.
And hotter stars are more white or
white
blue.
or blue. And then what are these sitting at? 9%?
I think that one's at 9 and that one's at 12.
Yeah, and they're incredibly bright.
Yeah, well, not terribly. So if you look right at it, it feels bright, but if you're not looking at it...
But it really lights up the space is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to see us very well. Part of the reason for just having it lit like from one side, though, is that you actually want the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
Shadows make it look more real and make people look more animated. So when you show emotion...
people can see it. Okay.
Yeah. So we have a couple of laptops we're also running. One is my older laptop. We have 3 instances of OBS Studio running on it. These cameras they have an HDMI output and they also have a USB-C output. The USB-C outputs are all going to the computer, and each one is recording in its own instance of OBS Studio. The HDMI outputs are going to the Stream Deck, and it's recording to its SD card.
Its own SD card.
Right. We have a second laptop that we'll hopefully we can get people to actually zoom in and want to talk to us, hopefully about some interesting things, and maybe we'll have some interesting things to talk about today beyond just this setup.
Right. What's funny is the Zoom meeting laptop is the significantly more capable laptop, but trying to get current Zoom meeting laptop to run 3 instances of OBS was actually problematic because I could get 2 of the cameras to record, but then the third one, what it looked like is the USB controllers were getting overwhelmed by having 3 cameras go into it, and I tried all kinds of configurations on the laptop itself to try and spread out the USB usage. But simply, I just don't think there might be 1 or 2 USB controllers when we need like 3. And the much older computer, for whatever reason, can actually handle all 3 just fine. I haven't found a USB configuration in which it fails to do all 3. So even though we have this very nice laptop with the 5070 Ti and the Ryzen 9 H375, the AI one.
Man, you remembered all those numbers and terms.
Well,
better than me.
We needed a laptop that would do both video processing and AI processing well, because most of the editing will be completed by AI.
Right.
And I'll pass off to you as to why you chose to do AI editing.
I've had a couple of YouTube channels. The first one got like 30 subscribers. All I did was read stories, and I tried to make little videos out of them with little toys that I bought. I didn't really have time to dedicate to it, and I was just goofing around, and I eventually deleted the channel. I had a second YouTube channel, The Sexy Universe. At its peak, it got over 3,000 subscribers. I haven't posted anything on there in over a year. What I was using for editing was DaVinci Resolve Studio. Now, you can get regular DaVinci Resolve for free, and for about 90% of people who need to do any kind of video editing, DaVinci Resolve is free, and it's going to meet all your needs. If you have a laptop and a little bit of patience to learn it, YouTube University, you can learn how to do everything. There's somebody on YouTube posting about how to do the things you want DaVinci Resolve to do. I eventually got DaVinci Resolve Studio because I wanted it to do captions for when I would make YouTube shorts. My old laptop, it has like 128 megs of video memory, 16 gigs of regular memory. And with all the processing now that you need to do, like editing in a faster time frame, we just need a lot more.
How long were you spending on manually editing?
Right. So with that channel, since I was talking entirely about science, you have to edit in a lot of images. And editing in those images, cleaning up the sound, all that kind of stuff. Basically, for every minute of video I was making, I was probably spending between 20 minutes and an hour just editing. Some videos took 30 hours to edit. So day in, day out. And I mean, it's fun. It's fun because you're learning new things and you're doing new things, but that editing gets tedious, especially when it's just you and you're doing it by yourself day after day after day. There's a whole wide world out there that I wanted to go interact with. Yeah, if I was making $1 million doing it, then you'd say, well,
yeah, hire an editor.
Right. So that's the other thing. There are a lot of YouTube creators who hire editors. You can get an editor who works on the cheap. They'll do a video for you for somewhere between $80 and $100, $80 and $120, maybe 200 if it's a really long video. But then in order for that to pay, basically for every $10 you're paying an editor, you got to get 10,000 views. For every $1 you're paying an editor, you got to get 1,000 views.
Got it.
It's not because, so let's be straight up, not every ad that runs on your channel pays. You only get paid for the first time someone watches an ad. And a lot of people are using ad blockers. A lot of the people who are watching your videos aren't even people. And YouTube ain't going to pay you for that.
No.
So you basically, if you're paying an editor, then you are on the treadmill. You have to get 100,000 views per video just to be breaking even, just to get your costs back. And then when you look at the amount of time you put into learning and scripting and promoting and everything else, by the time you do that, you would basically, you make a video, let's say it gets 150,000 views, you're paying your editor and then you're making like $3 an hour. So unless you have a big channel that's delivering tons of views consistently, just the money is not positive, right?
So if an editor is expensive, why not edit it yourself?
Right, because of all the time it takes, right?
And you have a full-time job.
Right. If you got to work. So actually, a lot of content creators are either retired or they work part-time or they're otherwise not employed. Like their whole income just comes from the content they create. I mean, I'm glad for everybody who can afford to do that, but
oh yeah,
I got a whole ass life to live here. The other thing is the isolation. And I've gone to a couple of small meetups and everything, smaller conventions, and you meet content creators, and most of them are all alone, all day, every day, making their video, making their live stream, making a lot of these folks, they got to post to Instagram 2-3 times a day, TikTok 2-3 times a day, YouTube every single week, sometimes twice a week. Plus they're making YouTube shorts, plus they're promoting their stuff on X or on Facebook or whatever. And they are just by themselves 12, 13 hours a day. And to be honest, that's why you hear a lot of weird stuff from influencers.
Because we're social animals.
Right.
And if you're totally isolated, you don't level.
Right.
You don't level yourself out.
Your ideas don't get challenged. That's the number one thing. So if you take the first Star Wars movies that came out for episodes 4, 5, and 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
George Lucas was, obviously he was good at what he was doing and people believed in him, but he was also a regular guy making movies. So people weren't afraid to challenge him. They weren't afraid to tell him. And he even, I've even seen interviews where he talked about how his partner at the time, I can't remember if it was his wife or his girlfriend, she told him a few of his script ideas just were not good ideas.
Okay.
And he took them out. So he got that feedback and it actually made better stories and better movies, right? And if you look at a lot of movie producers and a lot of writers and a lot of creative people, like the stuff earlier in their career is actually better than the stuff later in their career, right? And it's because they hit that success early and now all of a sudden they're a genius.
Right.
Nobody can challenge them.
When a lot of times the first idea isn't the best idea.
We all need people to tell us that you're getting off the rails. Time to pull it in. Other thing is, Chris McCandless.
Nope.
What's the name of the book? There's a whole movie about him too. He was a kid who he didn't had what looked like the ideal Chris McCandless, called himself Alexander Supertramp, Into the Wild, and the movie Into the Wild. And he grew up in a nice suburb and everything else, but he was always kind of made to fit into a box. He always felt that he was not valued as a human being and never had a good relationship with his parents, even though they loved him dearly and his sister loved him dearly, but he did not have that close, cohesive relationship with them, right?
Okay.
He became hyper independent, right? And he would go just out in the wilderness with a bag of rice and see how long he could live. And to both his credit and his detriment, he was good at doing it. He went on took his car, his super nice car, just out in the desert and left it in a ditch. Not what I would have done.
Yeah, you sell it, something.
Well, it's kind of like at the end of Titanic, where the girl takes the heart of the ocean, the big old diamond, and she throws it into the water. And I was like, oh, wait, what? Well, she wasn't a girl anymore. She was actually an elderly woman, but she takes the heart of the ocean, this super valuable diamond that she'd been carrying around her whole life, and throws it into the water. The thing is, first of all, I'd have sold that thing.
Even if you're not emotionally attached to it, it still has.
Right. The other thing is, you can take that thing of value, the money, and you can donate it to charity, and it can literally change the lives of dozens of people.
Right.
If instead of leaving his car in a ditch somewhere, if he had given it
Cars for kids.
right,
And stuff like that.
yeah, right. There's charities that'll
Flip that vehicle.
they'll flip it and use it for people who need it. Anyway, and actually, I know quite a few people who've donated oils to.
We've
Sure.
gotten pretty sidetracked from the point of
Right.
from
but
the
that's
point
okay.
of our question.
Right.
But the reason the setup is what it is so that you don't get isolated.
Right.
You don't get bogged down.
Yeah, exactly.
And every video isn't just reaming you or costing you a bunch of money to generate.
Right. Yeah. So it's time, money, and human connection, right? Which, pretty valuable things, right?
So
Some people would say the most valuable things.
yes, the point of using AI editing is to keep you not isolated.
Right.
keep you producing to keep your money in your pocket.
Right. Well, whether you like it or not, you might as well say we, because
Yeah, we.
you're kind of in on this. But if I can, I want to get back to the Chris McCandless thing.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
But the content itself
Right.
will never be AI.
Never be AI. In testing this, we used both Opus Clip and Descript, and I let them do their B-roll thing, which their B-roll is where they add their own imagery and background to your video. And it was all AI generated, and it was just so disappointing.
Yeah, it was awful to begin with and looked entirely disingenuous.
Right. Yeah. So the content is going to be actual humans talking about actual things.
Human ideas.
Right.
Human execution.
We're going to talk about like actual books written by actual people, and we're going to talk about research that's done by actual people. And hopefully some of those researchers and authors will either want to meet up with us or Zoom in with it, get on a Zoom call with us.
Right. Who was that gentleman you got to speak to when you were running the Sexy Universe?
Oh, right. I can't remember the exact name of the professor. I could look it up. I talked to a lot of people, but one of the professors, one of the studies I looked at on galactic filaments, and not cosmic filaments, those are different, but galactic filaments, which are basically trails of light or trails of gas that come off of galaxies, right? And those galactic filaments run along cosmic filaments, as it turns out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, okay, so cosmic filaments are basically, you have a web of dark matter in these long strings. It's a good way to think about it is like the dark matter is in these vast rivers that they just span billions of light years, right?
Okay. Something we could never conceptualize.
Oh, it's so big. They kind of make a web, right? Like this 3D web.
Okay.
And you're talking about they're billions of light years long and millions of light years wide. Yeah. So it's like you have these giant tubes, right? And they're not perfectly straight, they're like, but you can't see them. They're dark matter, right?
Okay.
So dark matter, for those who don't know what it is, we don't know what it is. Vera Rubin, she was an astronomer back in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And she was basically doing super painstaking work. Like what they would do is they'd take telescopes and they'd make photographic images of what was coming through it. And actually there were quite a few astronomers who did this, like beginning all the way back in the 1800s when they would take photographic plates and basically they'd take the telescope pointed at the photographic plate, right? And then they'd have to try to move the telescope. And this is when they didn't have, there wasn't even electricity to run a gyroscope. They're trying to, by hand, move the telescope so that as the Earth spins, they don't lose the focus on what they had, right? And they got to keep it there long enough for all the objects that are in their telescope to show up on that photographic plate, right? Obviously, by the 60s, it wasn't as hard, right? But what Vera Rubin did was she was looking at probably several a day or at night. She's getting these images, obviously fairly good resolution and quality for her to be able to do what she did. But she'd take these time-lapsed images of galaxies and she would measure. I mean, she's getting down here, like with the calipers, measuring how much these individual stars and individual nebulae, supernovas that were going on in them, how much they had moved, right? Because galaxies are spinning, right?
Yeah.
So based on what she could see on what the stars, how many stars it looked like there were and everything, she calculated what the mass of these galaxies would be, right? And what she found is that galaxies spin at about 5 to 5.5 times the velocity they should spin, given the visible mass. If the visible mass that was in galaxies is all there was, they spin so fast they'd fly apart.
Okay, so that's an 85% discrepancy right there.
It's a huge discrepancy. Yeah. So nearly all the matter in the universe is, well, I shouldn't say that. So the universe is about 70% dark energy, and it's about 26% dark matter, maybe 25, maybe 27, right? And then the rest of it is the visible matter, baryonic matter, right? The stuff you and I
We're
are
made of and what we interact with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you basically have these long filaments of the cosmic web that are they're enormous, and they formed, all the way back, like we're talking Big Bang, kind of a little after the Big Bang, right?
Okay.
We just have this cooling dark matter, right? And so these filaments, the cosmic web, these filaments are like giant rivers, and our galaxies are they're just like little rocks. And you know the
Gods.
song "Islands in the Stream." That
Okay.
is what, yeah.
I've never heard that song.
Okay, Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton. It's a song that predates me.
Okay.
But yeah, Islands in the Stream is pretty much what we are. We are just kind of floating out here in this on these giant rivers of dark matter. And what happens is
a galaxy is contained within this cosmic web.
pretty much all of them, right? That obviously there are some that are outside of these vast filaments, right?
Okay.
So we know these filaments are out there because some other astronomers in the 60s, they just as painstakingly, what they started doing was looking at the redshifts of all these different galaxies in the universe, right?
And a redshift is when something is moving away from you.
What Einstein found, and what I should say is what Einstein and his wife found. Here's the thing. Einstein's most groundbreaking discoveries were, I have strong reason to believe, were in collaboration with his first wife. He didn't figure this stuff out on his own, right? And there are even kind of obscure statements he made where he listed women who inspired him. In fact, there's a mathematician whose name I can't remember, a German mathematician, a woman, whose most of her work came from 1870 to about 1900. Prior to Einstein doing his work, he relied very heavily on her mathematical discoveries. And I'll put her picture and her name. I'll clip that in. So
this is a note to do that.
Right. So when people see it, they'll know it. All of his major discoveries, it was kind of an open secret that he and his wife were writing those papers together.
Oh, okay.
Right. After that divorce, after they split up, he didn't have more major. I mean, obviously, he was still brilliant and a great professor and came up with other great ideas, but not like general relativity and special relativity, right?
So you need that socialization. You need that challenge.
Right. So, okay. So back to the Chris McCandless thing. He starved to death in a bus up in Alaska, the abandoned bus. Horrible, right? The irony is, and it's a dark irony, there were cabins just within a few miles of him that he could have walked to, he could have found, right? If somebody had been there with him, maybe they would have found him. But one of the last things he wrote in his journal was, "Happiness best when shared."
Okay.
What a hard way to learn that lesson.
Yeah.
Right? So the highest levels of, I've come to believe with certainty, the highest levels of happiness, the highest levels of success, like all those things are a team effort.
They have to be shared.
They have to be. Right. I know so many people who've done great things on their own, done really big, important things on their own. But to get from here to here, you can't just alpha your way through that.
Right. Yeah. Who else? During Einstein's time, there was also Oppenheimer, right?
Yeah. So Oppenheimer was kind of the next generation
of
physics after
following
Einstein and Bohr. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And he himself used a lot of Einstein's research that he had, and he himself did not operate alone.
Right. So Einstein said, I believe it was Einstein who said, I've stood on if you think I've seen far, it's because I stood on the shoulders of giants.
Right.
And so that's basically what every researcher, every thinker, every artist, that's what we're all doing. Philosophy, anyone, I mean, even take athletes now. If you look at the NBA, you'll hear people arguing who's the greatest basketball player. Is LeBron greater than Michael Jordan, right? It's, how can you compare those? Like, you're never going to see them play each other in their prime. But the current generation of basketball players, they were inspired by the Michael Jordan.
By these people.
Right.
And another thing, especially in sports, is we learn how to beat our idols.
Right. So Michael Jordan was he was really good at the slam dunk. By the way, one of his most famous quotes is, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take."
Gotcha.
Right. So if you're thinking about taking your shot, take your shot. Right.
Right.
What he was famous for was his dunking. But now what makes players really great is that they can hit the three, right?
Right. From almost anywhere on the court.
Right. So in a lot of ways, dunking is it's obsolete. It doesn't even matter anymore. If you look at how Larry Bird played, he wasn't hitting threes or dunking. It was the 2-point jump shot that he could hit from almost anywhere on the court, right? A huge digression. Okay, so back to Einstein with relativity. When you talk about light, so the rule he discovered, he theorized about, was that light always appears to be going the same speed no matter what speed you're going, right? So if I'm running away from you and you point a flashlight at me, right? If I could detect the speed of the light coming from that flashlight, it would look like 186,000 miles per second, right? While I'm running away from it. If I'm running toward it, it's still going to look like it hits at 186,000 miles per second, right?
Okay.
I guess that's 300,000 kilometers, if you don't believe in freedom units.
Okay.
The thing is, though, if I'm going toward it, it's going to look more blue. And if I'm going away from it, it's going to look more red. And that's just Doppler effect.
Right.
Right.
Blue shift versus red shift.
Exactly. Yeah. So when you say a galaxy is red shifted, that means it's moving away from you. And the important thing that Edwin Hubble discovered, and again, this was another one, he was actually working out of observatory by Flagstaff, Arizona, right?
Oh, cool.
And what he found, and again, this was all like photographic plate and measuring things like with calipers, things like that. But if you look at like the mathematics in their paper, they're doing this stuff by hand. And they're drawing their graphs at logarithmic scale. They're drawing them by hand, right? And what he found was that the further away a galaxy was, the more red-shifted it was, which means the farther away it is, the faster it's moving away from you, too.
Okay. And that's where you get the beginnings of the universe is always expanding.
Right. And not just expanding, but the expansion keeps expanding faster and faster, right? And then you have all kinds of different hypotheses about why that's happening. You basically get a lot of hypotheses about why it's happening. But if you take the equations, general relativity, which are about how space-time is warped by massive objects, right?
Okay.
And I haven't looked at this specific mathematics myself or the geometry myself. But apparently when you look at if you were to take those equations of general relativity and expand them out to an open universe like we have, right?
Okay.
Then they actually become, instead of it making it look like things are getting pulled in, they actually kind of start to slope away, right? So with general relativity, you've seen the picture of the ball, the sun is a ball, and it looks like it's like sitting on a trampoline and holding
Or like in a pit.
right. Yeah. And then you're not actually falling in. You're actually going straight ahead, but you're trapped in this circle.
You're trapped in a bowl.
Right.
If you can spin a marble around a bowl, have it walk around the sides or roll around the sides, and it will stay in the same spot.
Yes, exactly. But if you were the marble, you would think you're just going straight ahead.
Right.
Along a surface, right? If you couldn't see outside of that bowl. Right. So
do we experience the acceleration from that?
Well, right here on Earth we do. Yeah. So there was an experiment where they basically took a clock up on the space shuttle, and the space shuttle was up there for whatever it is, week or two, right? And they had a clock on Earth, and they had set them both to the exact same time. And when the clock on the space shuttle came down, the time was different by like 6 seconds. I believe it was 6 seconds slower.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, they age slower up on the ISS than we do down here.
Right, because we're being constantly accelerated by the Earth's gravity. Right.
Okay.
So anyway, there's a whole lot to say, but basically in the 60s, this was another set of astronomers. They came up with this idea, hey, let's map all the galaxies in the universe. And they're doing this by hand. Like,
okay.
And we're talking about, even at the time, they were looking at just millions of galaxies. Right now, we can see billions of galaxies, right? We've got all these computers and gyroscopes and everything, and networks of telescopes on Earth and in space that run 24/7 to try to map the universe, right? What they did was they just took the redshifts and used that to place distance. And they took, hey, what day of the year is it? What time is it? Where am I looking in the sky? And they, because as you move around the sun, things shift where they would be, and depending on the time you're looking at it, it shifts where it would be. So you've got to get all these. You have to be constantly recalculating your coordinates for every single galaxy, and they map out these galaxies, and they find that these galaxies are like, the universe is almost like bubbles. It's like you have these bubble surfaces that all the galaxies are on, or at least look kind of bubbly, right? And then you have these huge, inside the bubbles, there's almost nothing, right? So if you take like the largest void in the universe, the Boötes void, right? It's just enormous. Probably remembering the number wrong, but we're talking about like 300 million light years across, and there's like 60 galaxies in it. It's huge and empty. If you were in it, you would look up.
60 galaxies does not sound like a void to me.
Yeah, except how big it is. It is so big.
For reference, what would you expect? How many would you expect?
Oh, for the size of it, you would expect tens of thousands.
Golly.
You know what? I'm almost inclined to say, let's just look up the size of the Boötes void right now. It contains 60 galaxies, which is significantly lower than the approximately 2,000 galaxies. So I was off by an order of magnitude. Radius of 62 megaparsecs, about 330 million light years. So I guess my memory on all that isn't terrible. But so you could argue this creates an even better question, right? So you have these superstructures created by these filaments where you just have these chains of galaxies. And these filaments, they're detected is basically there's gas. There's streams of gas, streams of hydrogen gas that kind of run between them, right? And when those streams of gas get hit by X-rays or gamma rays, they become like plasma, right? And they absorb some of that energy, and then they re-release a lot of that energy. But the amount that gets absorbed and the amount that gets released are not the same. The amount that gets released is going to be lower. And it's because the gas itself has to be heated up. The gas itself is retaining that energy that's not released, right?
Okay. Does it expand?
It would, but you're talking about already it's so thin. It's already so diffuse. We actually have telescopes that are sensitive enough, and it's not just the telescopes, it's actually the processing, the machine learning and the mathematics that allows researchers to discern these little flashes of light that come off of these super diffuse filaments of gas that run along these massive cosmic rivers of dark matter. And using those, we're able to, using the light that comes from quasars that are 12 billion light years away. And a quasar it's a galaxy it's an active galaxy that is where the galactic center is just sucking in all this gas, and that gas is getting superheated, and it's just blasting out like this massive ray of
Gamma
and X-rays and light. Yeah. If you were close enough, you'd be
destroyed.
nothing. Right. But it's so redshifted when it gets to us that it looks like a radio signal. And these were originally called radio galaxies.
And for reference, a gamma, the waves are how tightly coiled together?
Oh, I don't know, dude. 10 to the negative 14th meters.
And then
you're talking about so small.
Radio is multiple meters.
Right. Radio waves are huge.
So you're talking about hundreds of billions within a meter to...
You're talking more like trillions.
Oh, man.
Within a meter. Yeah. To
one every 3 meters.
It may be more than that. I know there are some electromagnetic waves where the waves are much longer than that. And we can just put up a picture of the EM spectrum.
Well,
you're going from the...
What the difference is between what the light looks like at these galaxies versus what they look like to us.
So you're talking about the highest possible energy is being emitted and the lowest possible is being seen. And that kind of creates the limit of what we can observe as far as the size of the universe. Because once you get beyond that, objects are moving away so fast that the light will never get to you.
Okay.
The universe is expanding. Space is expanding so much that you just ain't never going to see what's beyond that, right? So anyway, these quasars are blasting through all these filaments, right? And you get what's called... So these filaments are made of hydrogen, and they crank out light at specific wavelengths, right?
And these are the galactic filaments.
Right. So
rather than the cosmic filaments.
Right. Well, yeah. So that gas is coming off of galaxies and being drawn toward galaxies. You have this gas that's between them, right? And you do get these relatively dense streams of gas that push off of galaxies, right? They stay within these cosmic rivers, right? You can see them because of the light that's coming off the galaxy next to them, right? So those are called galactic filaments. And they often will go between, you have galaxy groups, right? And they'll go between one and the other, right? But within these cosmic filaments, you have within these cosmic rivers. I prefer calling them rivers because they're so big. Okay. You have this diffuse hydrogen gas. This hydrogen gas feeds into galaxies, and then galaxies also push some into it, right? So you kind of have this transfer of gas between the two. And what happens is the light from a quasar will go through one cloud, and then another cloud, and then another cloud, and then another cloud. And each of those clouds is going to release its own bright light, right?
Okay.
So that light that comes off of hydrogen, it comes off at specific wavelengths because hydrogen basically has that one electron.
Okay.
Gets bumped up to the next orbital, and then when it comes back down, it releases some light, right? And so if you were looking for these specific wavelengths of light, each cloud that it passes through, light passes through, is going to get lit up, and it's going to release light at this frequency, right? But that light's going to be redshifted by the time it gets to you, right? And then it's going to go through the next cloud, which is going to release some light, and that's going to be redshifted, but not as much, right?
Okay.
And so when you can look at a graph of this, and it's called a forest, alpha Lyman. It's called the alpha Lyman forest, alpha Lyman radiation, what comes off of hydrogen. It literally does, like on the graph, it goes. So it looks like you have this forest of light, red-shifted light that you're looking at. And each of those is where there's a cloud of hydrogen. So you can actually use the alpha Lyman forest to map the hydrogen clouds in the universe.
That's so cool.
Right. And from those, you can get these filaments. So you don't just have to follow where the galaxies are. You can also look for the clouds of hydrogen.
That's off the chain.
Dude. Yeah, hopefully somebody who's more of an expert.
Yeah, can come on here and talk about it.
So yeah, what else do you think we should talk about? This is Charlie.
Yeah. Darth Charlie.
Yeah, he's old, deaf in one ear.
Going blind.
Yeah, still hanging in there though. Still has a couple teeth.
When you adopted him, he was what, 30 pounds?
Yeah, so he had a period of his life where he was a husky dude.
Yeah.
But now we're keeping him between.
For reference, he's 18.5.
Yeah, we're keeping him between 18 and 20, 21. Anyway, what else do you want to talk about, man?
Okay, so we talked about the setup.
We talked a lot about the setup, yeah. We talked about space. We talked about human connection.
With this setup, right. The whole setup is centered around basically optimizing human connection.
Yes.
And being able to move around.
Yes.
With this setup, we also have a couple external displays that we use.
Right.
And one external display shows what the Stream Deck is recording. And then the other external display is to our recording laptop.
Right.
The laptop that records 3 instances of OBS. Those are the things that we missed. And then the number of cables we have, I mean, what? We have
a lot of cables.
It has 15, 20 cables just here.
And then a surge protector. There is a lot of cables. Being careful not to trip over them is huge.
And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 tables. 5, 6 if we count those ottomans.
There's a couple ottomans, which we aren't using right now, but maybe somebody will want to put their feet up. Join us in the studio and put their feet up.
All that is to say, even what would be seen as a basic setup like this is really quite complicated. And it took us, what, a week to put all that together?
Right. So
it took us a week of like putting it together. Okay, this doesn't work.
The physical setup was about a day and a half.
Right.
It was making things actually work.
Right.
And we're still going to have to do a little bit of work on the deck because the video follows audio. The switching is not quite where we want it to be.
All the integration has been the mess.
It's been brutal. So anyway, we wanted to share with you how we set it up. So if you're planning to do this kind of thing yourself, you at least have a starting point.
But the thing is, even though it was difficult and it took us a long time, it was totally achievable. Either single one of us could have done it.
Right. But we would still be working on it.
Yes.
The thing is, like, getting it done myself would take like 3 to 4 weeks. Right. Part of it too is when you're working with another person, they help you stay in it. They help you stay motivated.
That's true.
Instead of you like having to say, you know what, I can't take no more of this. I'm going to go walk the earth for.
And then when you're totally tunnel vision, like last night when I was working on the new laptop, our editing laptop, and you were like trying to tell me to just use the other laptop to update these cameras.
Right.
And I was purposely ignoring you because I was so focused on this one task.
Uh-huh.
And so it's really important to have a person who is willing to challenge you and interact with you, even when you're not being your best or kindest.
That's true. Well, you weren't being particularly mean.
Yeah, I wasn't being mean.
You were quite dialed in.
Yes. Yeah. And I wasn't taking any outside input. And it took you a moment to be like, hey, listen,
I would say that's something that happens mutually.
Yeah, we definitely have to sometimes kind of bark at each other to get
the best results. So anyway, I think this is enough for our first episode.
Yeah, totally.
We'll get it edited. We'll get up some clips. We'll get it posted, and let's go to Renfest.
Dude, this is so fun.
Yeah, this is going to be great. All right. And we'll see you guys later. I believe the ideal life is a nonstop process of learning and growing. Thanks for learning and growing with us. Stay on your game, and we'll see you next time on the Everybuddies Podcast.